What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Mystic Watch, and today we got an in-depth analysis going over Sasuke Uchiha, Seal of Shadow, the new Rinnegan Sasuke that is already dropped on Japan and will be dropping after tonight's maintenance on Global if you're watching on the same day. Now, starting off, I already did my Naruto analysis, and if you want to check that out, I highly recommend you check out the Naruto analysis. You watch today's analysis, and then if you're still on the cusp of deciding, if you're deciding on who to summon for, I do have an entirely separate video dedicated to that as well. So be sure to check out those videos as well if you're still confused on who you should go for. But today's video will be solely focused on Sasuke, where he fits, how strong is he, and just any opinions on that matter. So starting off, Sasuke Uchiha is a Blazing Festival unit, will be featured on his own unit separate from Naruto. Base cost is 80, and for evolution materials, I mentioned this for Naruto as well, but he has 5 4-star scrolls that he needs to awaken, which is higher than any other unit in the game, well, not including Naruto. So be sure that you guys farm up your scrolls. It might be too late telling you guys this now, but you know, you will need some scrolls to awaken him, so if you haven't summoned for him yet, be sure you farm up a little bit. Now moving on, max HP is 1708, max attack is 1336, and he's long range. So I've made this point before. Hashirama has about the same attack, and so does Utakata. Actually, Utakata's is like 50 higher, but I feel like his attack stat is quite low, considering that Utakata came out, I'd say like 4 or 5 months ago, and this Sasuke is coming out now. So on top of that, like the Itachi from Blazing Fest has like the same base stat for attack pretty much. So in my opinion, this attack stat is a little low, and this is just, I'm not saying he's bad, I'm just saying that the attack stat is slightly low, but we'll get to that when we get to the dupes as well. He has solid HP, which is actually a pretty good thing if you're trying to do well in PvP, but like I said in the Naruto video as well, I'm not going to focus on PvP at all on this analysis, simply because PvP is in a beta right now. It's in a sneak preview, and when that ends, we don't know what can get changed, what won't get changed. So there's no point in trying to go in depth about PvP when, you know, we don't know what's going to happen to it. Now moving on, field skill, he has a counter 30 to 60% chance. It's not bad, it's not anything amazing, but you know, it's not useless, I'll put it that way, but it's definitely not one of the better ones. Buddy skill reduces chance of being immobilized by 30%. Definitely not one of the better ones. But once again, if you're going to have him up front, there's no reason to put him in the back. So the buddy skill isn't that important in my opinion. Now, normal jutsu. He has 5 chakra, 5.5 times attack, and wisdom to all enemies in range. He has an 80% chance of slip damage for 7 turns and knocks them back. So very solid jutsu off the bat without any duplicates needed. This is a very powerful jutsu. So 5.5 times attack without any duplicates puts him at 7,898 damage per unit hit. And the jutsu size is relatively big, right? It is a mid-size jutsu that's orientated to the right. It's a circle. If you guys know Kirin Sasuke, it is the same exact jutsu size, and that jutsu size is, you know, plenty big. Now on top of that, 5.5 times attack is a very high multiplier for an AoE jutsu to begin with, and then you know, the 80% chance of slip damage, which can go to 100% chance with this first dupe ability, is very powerful indeed. And the fact that it's 7 turns and then it has that knockback effect. So this is definitely going to be a powerful jutsu when it comes to anything. When it comes to just clearing maps, when it comes to slip damage, like trying to apply that slip damage to the bosses to kind of whittle them down. Just for anything, if you're setting up for Utakata combo, so anything of the sort. On top of that, it's already 8 hit count. The difference between 8 and 7 hits is actually pretty big. So if this was 7 hits, it couldn't get an ultra combo on his own if you hit 2 people, which is pretty bad. But the fact that it's 8 and it's an AoE, so if you can manage to get 2 people hit in it, you can always generate another chakra. Now moving on to his ultimate, it is 10 chakra, 14 times attack, and wisdom to all enemies in range. 80% chance of immobilizing for 2 turns and pulls them closer. So This ultimate is vast range, and it'll pull them towards the center, I believe, or towards Sasuke. I have to double check on that one just because I don't own, well, actually I do own Sasuke on my JP account, but I haven't used him yet. So that's the one thing I just have to clarify, is whether it pulls them into the center or it pulls them into Sasuke himself. But either way, 80% chance of immobilization for 2 turns is pretty damn good on its own. So, and on top of that, it has such a high multiplier, 14.5. So in terms of raw damage, without any dupes, you're doing 20,822 damage, which is solid stuff right there for being a vast range. So you're hitting every unit for that much damage, and then you have an 80% chance to immobilize them. Now, one of the biggest concerns that people had when the whole Naruto versus Sasuke debate is going on is that, well, Mystic, half the bosses are resistant to immobilization, and that is true. You know, a good amount of the bosses are resistant to immobilization, but what people seem to forget is that, you know, the definition of resist is not immune. Immune and resist are 2 completely different things. You know, resist is simply, you know, you have a smaller chance to get that they are resistant to immobilization, meaning you can still pull it off if anything. Now, the other thing is that you don't need, the other problem is that people were saying that, oh, the Sasuke isn't good because of that reason, and they're like, why would you ever need to immobilize anything other than the boss? And people got the wrong idea that everyone in the game, everyone who played the game is a whale and has every unit and can beat everything fully duped and all that stuff. You gotta remember, for the people who are watching, that you know, we're on that side that are like, you know, it's pretty useless to have it on his ultimate because everyone's resistant or whatever. Not everyone who plays this game has a fully stacked account that can walk through every single mission. You gotta realize that, you know, this is going to be useful outside of the boss as well. You can use this immobilization outside of that area, you know, on map 2. Usually, whatever mini boss appears on map 2 has no resistance to anything, so you can always immobilize them. Usually, maps on S rank these days have 6 or 7 units out at one time. So with vast range, you can clear out all of them. Anyone that's left over, you can immobilize. So you gotta remember that, you know, this game mode, just because it might, or with this specific ultimate, just because it might not benefit you to the extreme extent because everything else is so easy, doesn't mean you speak on behalf of everyone else. That's just the one thing I wanted to point out, because that was the one thing I felt like was a big misconception about this jutsu. Now, moving on, let's take a look at the dupe abilities, and then we'll jump back and check out the jutsu damages and where he fits with damage per chakra and, you know, things of that nature. So, dupe abilities, we have the first one, boost slip damage rate by 20%. Very important jutsu. It makes this 100% chance of slip damage, which just the fact that you can guarantee the slip damage is very important, because it'll always work for you in, that means you can run him in Phantom Castle and have no issues, because you can run him in place of in place of Kirin Sasuke, and you'll never have an elemental disadvantage. So, you know, this will definitely be a good jutsu. The next one is boost duration of status ailments by 1 turn. If you guys are not familiar with this specific dupe ability, what it does is it adds 1 turn to over here and over here as well. So it would go from 7 to 8 turns, and this would go from 2 to 3 turns. Now the next one is boost attack by 250, and this is where that first point that I was making about the attack being low is kind of circumvented. So this would jump up to 1586 before pills, and at that point having almost 1600 attack is pretty solid for a long range unit. So the only issue is that it's blocked behind a pay to win barrier, if that makes sense, right? The idea of getting duplicates implies that you can pull a good amount of times, or you've had stones. These stones are completely free to play, but if you disregard that fact, like, the chances of you pulling 4 Sasukes is already you know, it has its own factor to it. So if you do have the stone saved, you know, great for you. That, you know, that's what I'm doing as well. Any stones that I've saved, I'm going to try to use to get on this Sasuke and Naruto as well, because I'm going for both units. Now, moving on, the boost duration of, actually one more point about this 250 attack is that these are very high multipliers that he has, so any increase in attack is actually greatly affected in the jutsu size, jutsu damage, and I'll go over that as well when we get to that aspect. Now the next one is boost duration of status ailments by another 2 turns. So like I said, this one increases by 1, this one increases by another 2. So this one would go from 8, since it already had the 1 turn from here. This would go from 8 turns to 10 turns, and this would go from 3 turns to 5 turns. And at that point, these jutsus just become stupidly busted. 10 turns of slip damage is a lot. That's 3 complete full rotations of slip damage. And if you manage to get his next Dupe ability, which reduces Chakra gauge by 1, you can stack this infinitely, because you'd use it, and then, you know, 3 rotations later. Actually, no, you can't use it infinitely. You'd have to generate Chakra at some point, at least once in the next 3 turns, but or 3 rotations. But if you can generate Chakra once in the next 3 rotations, then yes, you could technically use this infinitely and just constantly stack slip damage. Now the next thing is that 80% chance of immobilization for 5 turns is absolutely stupid. Now the only other person who, like, there's literally no one else who like immobilizes that long. So this is the first of its kind, and that's just something I want to point out, is that this is completely stupid, and with 5 turns you can get a lot done. I'll tell you that. And as for the reduced Chakra gauge, it's just like the Naruto has in the same position of the Dupe abilities. Reduced Chakra gauge brings him from 5 Chakra down to 4 Chakra for his normal jutsu, and from 10 Chakra down to 8. Now being 4 and 8 Chakra, which means that, you know, he has a higher damage per Chakra involved. He's doing solid damage and he can do it quicker. So it's definitely a good thing, and it's one of the things that makes him so strong is that he has a very low Chakra cost. And even though, like I said, I wasn't going to focus on PvP, it's just something to note that he'll actually be extremely powerful in PvP, and he's definitely going to be a monster in Phantom Castle. So the last one being reduces chance of being jutsu sealed by 20%, which outside of PvP isn't that good, but with PvP, having so many people run that sealing Gaara, you know, this is definitely going to be something that people would, you know, it's definitely going to be something that's beneficial. If you can reduce that ceiling by 20%, it's not going to harm you in any ways, but it's definitely not the most powerful ability. But like I said, that's speaking on behalf of PvP specifically. So moving on, what else do I have left? The other thing I wanted to note is where does he land in terms of pure damage? Well, if you go to the top nukers page, and I always forget to mention that I'm using the Reddit, links down below, and all these resources are available to everyone as well. So if you take a look, this is the AoE section of the Reddit. So with the normal jutsu, Rinnegan Sasuke is actually right over here. He's number 4 in terms of raw damage, but just put it this way, if he has, you know, for 4 Chakra, he's doing neutral damage this much, right? 9,273. For 7 Chakra, Susanoo Sasuke is doing that much, and for 5 Chakra, Shippuden Naruto is doing that much. The only difference being is that the Shippuden Naruto does raw damage and nothing but damage, whereas Sasuke has that 10 turn immobilization if you fully dupe him out. The other thing being that this Naruto also has a limit break as well. So that's really it. And then the Obito has, you know, 6. He can do this for 6 Chakra or 8 Chakra, depending, you know, however many dupes you have anywhere in between. That's kind of where this Sasuke lands in terms of pure damage. Now, when you take a look at the ultimate jutsu, Sasuke is number 2, but like I said, Obito does pure damage, and this Sasuke right here does, you know, not only just his damage, he pulls them in, and on top of that, he does that 80% chance of immobilization for 5 turns. So the fact that he's able to hit the second hardest in the game on his element, if he's able to hit the second hardest on his element and still have that insane factor of you know, the utility is kind of nuts. And on top of that, it is less Chakra than Obito. So at least now you guys have an understanding of where Sasuke ranks in terms of pure damage. Now, if we take a look over here, this is thanks to Just Some School Facts. He is one of the moderators, and he's done a great job contributing to the Reddit. So I'm using this optimal team analysis to kind of show you guys where, Sasuke places in terms of damage per chakra. So if you take a look at Sasuke's ultimate, because these are all sorted by ultimate damage per chakra, Sasuke's ultimate prior to any dupes does 20,822 damage. Now, with that being 10 chakra, the damage per chakra is actually 2,082 for the ultimate jutsu. So that would put him in between these two characters right here. And the Sasuke, ironically enough, this Kakashi does single target damage and can immobilize for like 4 turns. So think about it this way, right? He is a complete upgrade of this Kakashi, right? Where he has an AoE vast range and can immobilize for more turns. Well, no, technically it'd be less turns without dupes, but it is vast range in AoE. And on top of that, it's an 80% chance, where I believe Kakashi's is actually 60% chance. Now, not all of these up here are AoE, I believe. So let's see. Naruto's a single target. The Gaara is single target. I believe the Sasuke is single target. I can actually confirm it right now if I take a look. If you take a look right here. Yep. So the Sasuke has a single target ultimate jutsu. So, just an idea, so you guys have an understanding of where they lie. Now, fully duped out, this Sasuke does 24,447 damage, and that damage per chakra ends up being 3,056. So that would put him straight up at the top, right below Gaara, if Gaara's condition is met. But if it isn't met, Sasuke is the hardest hitter on, or not hardest hitter, he's the most efficient hitter on Wisdom, being the highest damage per chakra that you can possibly run. Like I said, right below Gaara if he has that condition met. But you also got to realize Gaara is single target while Sasuke is not. So, and it's not just like small AoE, like I said, it's vast range. So that's really it for now. Sasuke is definitely going to be a must-have on any team. If you have that, if you pull him, he'll be a must-have on any Wisdom team. And he's definitely in my top 10 units. And speaking on top 10, I'm working on a top 10 list after these characters drop. So, because, every now and then, old list gets outdated, new characters come in, new people take spots, things, move around. So be on the lookout for that top 10 list. It'll be a top 10 list not duped. And then I'll have a separate top 10 list fully duped. So thank you guys for keeping up until now. It is a long video, but if you guys appreciate these type of stuff, I definitely have no issues doing more of them. This is the type of content that I personally like to do. I like to do analysis and stuff like that, and hopefully you guys see me as someone who has a good understanding of the game. Otherwise, it'd kind of suck if you were watching this and I had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I really appreciate you guys for sticking around till the end. So until next time, peace out. Get ready for update tomorrow. Anniversary hype. Let's go.